So what's happening, my people? So y'all bear with me. This is my first time doing a Game of Thrones. Like, I do a bunch of shows and stuff, and I do everything on my channel. But this is my first Game of Thrones. I figured, man, it's the last season. This is one of the most monumental moments in television history. This is one of the biggest shows ever. And I love this show. I'll be honest, I was late to the party. Let me give you a little backstory. I didn't get into it until like season 5. They didn't have like nothing on TV and stuff. And I was like, man, I guess I'll see what this is about. And man, I wound up binging on it. I didn't really fall in love with it till like episode 5. But then at that time, I was like, I'm hooked. I've watched the seasons multiple times now. Fell in love with the show, man. The Red Wedding, this was some of my favorite moments. Whenever they killed Ned Stark. Whenever Jon was in the field and everybody was coming towards him and they killed his brother, that was a bigger moment. The last season whenever they was fighting in the ice, that was a great moment and stuff. A lot of big moments in the series, man. This could talk about that all day. But I want to get into the season premiere, and I think the name of this episode is Winterfell. It starts off, man. It has a little moment, cause Arya is standing there. She's watching the army progression come in, and it's kind of what happened at the beginning of the series. That's how the series kind of kicked off, because the army progression was coming in, but it was Cersei and them, and this time she's grown. And they have another kid that's amazed by this. And like, she's seen it all, done it all. She's world traveled by now and everything. I wrote a little notes and stuff for me to try to keep on track, stay in line with my thoughts. They have this episode is a lot about reunions, man. Because everybody winds up meeting again. Like, Jon Snow meets his family again. The Hound in Arya, she sees him early on in the episode, but they meet again later on. Tyrion and Sansa, they meet again. That was his wife at a time, so she left him hanging whenever Joffrey got murdered, and it made Tyrion look like he was a murderer. But she had to get away because either one of them were going to die. So you can't be too mad at her for that. One thing, like, I wrote this later on, but I want to get into this. Like, whenever Jon finally meets Arya again, and he's talking to her, and she says something. She talks about how Sansa is one of the smartest people that she ever met, and that kind of struck me. I'm like, she never came across that smart. Not to me. And crazy thing is because Tyrion always came across like he a mess up. I don't want to cuss. He a mess up, but he always was very intelligent in underneath his guise of foolishness and chasing whores and stuff. So he always really intelligent. But it kind of transferred. It kind of showed. Like Sansa said, Arya said Sansa was so smart. And Tyrion usually is so smart. And Tyrion talking about how his sister and them is coming to help him. And she like, I thought you was the most clever person ever. But you're not. Your sister is not coming. But I was watching it with my uncle, and I'm like, she does kind of have a cheat code because Bran knows everything. But I don't think Bran told her that. I think she just knows. Like, Sansa is the most evil person in the whole series. She is not going to help. She is not going to help at all. And I think he's blinded. Because at the end of the day, it's all about like families and people. They are stuck with their families, man, and their lineage and whatever. And I hate to say it, I would hope Tyrion doesn't really like turn the coat against the people, But I think he's in love. He's in love with Daenerys, and he sees Jon Snow. I think he kind of jealous, and he sees that Cersei is pregnant, and maybe he feels bad for what happened with the Joffrey and them and his other nieces and stuff, niece and nephew. So I hope he doesn't wind up going on their side, but I think he has he's kind of blinded towards them because he's like, that's my family. And somewhere deep in his psyche, he wants that love from them. But he's not going to get it. The only one showed him love ever was Jaime. Cersei and the daddy always hated him. And that's just the way it is. What other things I wrote? Oh, whenever a Greyjoy, he goes meets up with Cersei, and then he brings the golden army or whatever. And they have a crazy little moment because he tried to mess with her. And she like, you can buy a whore. You have to earn a queen. He like, war is long. I could be out there for years and stuff. And she walks past the mountain, and she's like, yeah, I'll have it. Shit. So she says all that. I figured that. I told my uncle that. I said, I bet she gonna give him something anyway. And she called him in the back and gave him something. I'm like, she been messing with her twin brother. She was messing with her little cousin. So I'm like, I don't see it for her not to mess with him. But then he does something crazy. He's like, I'm going to put a prince in you. She already pregnant. So she's kind of looking like, and I think this is her safety net or whatever. Because now she can be like, oh, that's not for Jaime. That's for the Greyjoy. And I don't think she's going to wind up. She's not going to marry him because she probably going to call for him to be murdered. And I don't think she's going to make it through the season either. I think she's going to die at some point. Probably way at the end. But she won't sit on the Iron Throne. I hate to say it, man, but I don't think Jon Snow in Daenerys is gonna sit on the Iron Throne either. I think they're gonna die in the war. That's just a little theory of mine. Because the eunuch dude, he was watching, and he was like, whenever they was in love, and he like, nothing lasts long. So it might be a little foreshadowing, man. Like they both gonna. She brings him out on the dragons. They both gonna be riding dragons and stuff. So I think whenever the war starts, they're gonna be on dragons together. And I think it's gonna come a point they're gonna have to sacrifice themselves and whatnot. And they might wind up dying valiantly. But I hope not. But that's just a thought. Just a thought. But when she does bring him. Me and my uncle, we was watching it, and we were clowning about that. I was like, boy, the things that a brother does for some hoo-ha. He jumps on the dragon. He don't want to jump on that dragon. That's like a girl being like, you want to jump on this roller coaster? You know you don't want to get on no roller coaster. You scared of it. You like, I guess so. I can't be no punk. So I'm trying to get this girl. So he goes on the dragon. He's scared as hell. And then she goes kissing on him and stuff. I don't blame him. She's an intimidating woman because she's very strong. But then them dragons are very intimidating. The dragons are just, he kissing her and looking like that. You cannot blame him. We find out he has Targaryen blood. We found that out already. But I'm gonna get to that. Try to say some other things. Theon saved his sister. I was laughing about that too. I was laughing about that with my uncle. And she hits him. Can't blame him. But his nuts finally dropped. Well, he don't have no nuts. But all I could think about was why the sister got locked up in the first place. Because when the uncle was like, what are you going to do, Theon? Oh, he jumped into the water. That was funny as hell to me. When I was watching the scenes and him going to save her, that's all I could think about. Was you jumped in that water and you was so scared. So he's finally getting a little bit of hardness, But he had a tough time, but he made it on himself because he did a lot of whole shit. But it's not like he lost his genitals and stuff. Like the eunuch dude, he's kind of like feminine wise, because he lost his stuff. But Theon, he lost his stuff as well, but I guess because he was tortured. Because I don't think that's a predecessor for you being a coward or whatever. Because Grey Worm and them, they all have been castrated, and that's the hardest army. Those in the other ones, I can't think of their name. The ones with the horses and stuff. The ones with the horses and Greyjaw army, that is some of the hardest armies on here. And just because they castrated, it just made them focus. It's like, you don't think about sex. So you just like, no pain, let's kill, whatever we got to do. Whoever commands our army, we're going to do what they tell us to do or whatever. So I was watching, I was like, you might as well, if he do get some nuts about him, shit, join with Greyjaw and them, Grey Worm and them, because hell, you on their level. They was making the weapons. I'm happy to see that they have mined the dragon glass, so they will have a chance whenever the armies do get there. So hopefully they hurry up and get their weapons. And it was a nice moment because you finally see Arya meeting up with the Hound. And they try to play tough. He's like, you a cold bitch, that's why you still alive. And they mugging each other. He did teach her how to survive. She had a lot of lessons and stuff, and one of her first lessons was being with the Hound. He taught her how to survive. And no matter how hard he tries to play it and stuff, he does have a lot of love for that little girl. Because whenever they went to go meet Cersei and them, and they brought the White Walker, and the girl told him that Arya was alive, he didn't actually show like excitement or something, but you can kind of tell he was happy that she was alive and stuff. So it's kind of the kindred spirits in a way. And Arya and homeboy that's doing the weapons, they had a little history together before he was taken away and sold by the Night Watchman for his blood or whatever. They had a little moments and stuff. I think she has a crush on him. They kind of have a crush on each other. That could be a future romance that we might see down the line. Speaking of the Night Watchman, we get to see that they didn't die at the wall. Because I was watching, I was like, man, I hope they survive, man. Because doing the red hair stuff, I really like him, man. I was like, man, don't die, dog. And they wind up being alive. And whenever they finally meet up with each other, the Night Watchman is coming from one way, and the other dude is coming from one way. And they're like, he's got blue eyes. I've always had blue eyes. So that was funny as hell. That was a good moment. The little White Walker that was on the wall with the arm symbols and stuff, that was crazy. But I was watching the episode, and I was looking at it, and I seen them eyes open. I was like, oh, you seen that? You seen that? I was like, oh, that's crazy. Then he started screaming. That shit was spooky. It wasn't like a horror movie moment, but it was close. I was like, oh, that shit was nuts. Sam and Daenerys have a moment. She feels indebted to him because he brought homeboy back. He the one that healed his gray scales and stuff, and when nobody else would. So she's indebted to him. He wants a pardon or whatever, but he finds out that she murdered his daddy and the brother. And at first I was watching it, and I was like, his daddy always hated his guts. His daddy was an evil mother sucker. So I'm like, why is he like that? But he did. When you see the subtle differences whenever she told him about the father, and then when he said the brother, because the brother was a good dude, but he wanted to be loyal to his father and stuff. So they both got burnt the F up. That's a crazy moment as well, because Daenerys is a good person, but she don't take no ish. And Sansa hates her. Sansa is very jealous-hearted. I don't trust Sansa, man. I really don't trust her. I think she has a hunger for power and stuff, so I don't know how that's gonna play out. But one Jon Snow and them, everybody is about their families and stuff. Like her, not as much because they don't really have any Targaryens left. But and her father was the Mad King. So does she kind of have a little bit of madness? Cause she don't play. And she was kind of telling Jon Snow something before they went right off with the dragons. She was like, "If your sister won't respect me," and then they interrupted her. What was they? Was she? Is she like preluding to I might have to kill her? And will Jon just sit out idly and let that happen? I doubt it. But they have their love relationship, so that's gonna be crazy. Something I almost glazed over. Whenever Cersei hires homeboy Bronn to kill Jaime and Tyrion. That's crazy because she had her moment to kill Jaime with the mountain, and that was funny too. Because whenever she was like, "You're not gonna leave," and the mountain did like this, and then he was like, "I don't believe you," and he just walked past. I'm like, she never told the mountain not to kill him. She gave the order to kill him, and then he called the bluff and walked past. But how did the mountain know she was bluffing? I'm thinking in the mountain, once the order was given, whenever he tried to walk past, he would have looked. But he knew that she was bluffing. I'm like, do they have a telekinetic bond or something? But whenever Sam finds out that Daenerys killed his family and stuff, he marches out the brother Bran tells him, it's time, you gotta tell him. But that's your brother. He's not my brother. And I think Sam had a little bit of joy in telling them that because he just was crushed. His family was murdered. So he kind of like, okay, well, y'all in love. I'm kind of about to mess up y'all romance. And he finally tells Jon Snow, you're not a Snow. You're not a Stark either. You are the rightful heir to the throne. You a Targaryen. And it's like your mother was a Stark and your daddy was a Targaryen. Me and Bran figured this out. And that crashes his whole world down. It's like, my daddy was the most humble, noblest man ever. And he lied to me all this time. But he did it to save him. He made his mother a promise. But that's a crazy moment. I want to see how him and Daenerys is going to act whenever they find out this information. Will they still have their love affair? And he says, you bow down to the throne for her. Will she do the same? So will she want to give power away? Because she came when her husband, her old husband Dragon, or whatever his name was, and she been like tough ever since. And like she don't want to bow down to no man. The episode ends off, Jaime Lannister, he's the only one shows up from the Lannister camp. And he finally meets Bran eye to eye. And it's like, wow. Because he the one that kind of started Bran off on this road. Like, he pushed him out the window. So would Bran ever have become the three-eyed raven and everything would have happened? But it was part of his journey. And do you think that Bran is... I don't think Bran is going to say anything. Because I think Bran... He sees everything. He knows everything. So he probably knows that Jaime is going to be useful in this war. We might need him. And I think he's so far-fetched from human desires and stuff. I don't think pettiness is in his DNA anymore. He's barely human anymore. But it had a lot of little moments. Like, I had a lot to talk about in this episode. But the thing, I wasn't crazy about it. I would have liked a little bit more action. We don't only have a few episodes to this season. Maybe like 7 episodes. So it's like six episodes left. I was hoping this episode would have been like an hour and a half or 2 hours. and would have had more action. So I was shortchanged on that. But they had a lot of story moments and people reuniting. But I wanted a little bit more. I'll be honest, I wanted a little bit more. So that kind of messed the episode up for me. But it was a great episode. Happy to see him back, but I wanted a little bit more. What are your thoughts on this episode, man? If you like the channel, subscribe. Like, comment, subscribe. Gonna be the greatest or the most hated, man. Drop your comments in the comment section. Holla at your boy, man. Peace out.